Do you mind if I pet your dragon? The room descended into silence. The Galactic Council, distinguished by its stern disposition and serious deliberations, had never encountered an interruption quite like this one. Representatives from over 100 species, each more unusual and alien than the one before, shifted their collective focus toward the source of the inquiry. A human, David Harris, an envoy from Earth, stood centrally within the Grand Chamber, a slightly amused expression on his face. His question was aimed at Counselor Zaru, an imposing figure adorned in iridescent scales, whose companion was identified as the apex predator of the galaxy, a kathar. The kathar, a white dragon-like being approximately the size of a human, was renowned for its savagery and intellect. It was widely believed that no being had ever managed to tame a kathar, let alone approach one without considerable fear. Yet there stood David, his hand extended as though inviting a common neighborhood dog for a friendly pat. Zaru's scales shimmered through shades of green and blue, a distinct sign of agitation. "Human, he hissed, his voice reverberating throughout the chamber. "The kathar are not pets. They stand as the pinnacle of evolution, hunters unsurpassed. To suggest otherwise is an affront to their very nature." David shrugged casually. "Well, I have always possessed an affinity for animals. Besides, how can we assert mutual understanding if we refrain from even making an attempt?" The council members traded incredulous looks. Whispers of disbelief proliferated through the chamber rapidly. Humans were recognized for their boldness, but this action verged on madness. Zaru's kathar, known as Zephyr, observed the human with penetrating blue eyes. The creature's lithe and powerful form stiffened as David advanced a step. A deep rumble issued from Zephyr's throat, a noise reputed to have chilled the blood of many warriors. Nevertheless, David remained resolute. "Permission to draw near?" David requested, his voice serene and unwavering. Zaru paused, considering. This human was either extraordinarily courageous or exceptionally reckless, perhaps a combination of both. The counselor's eyes narrowed as he mulled over the request. An instruction needed to be imparted here, either concerning humility or regarding respect for the Cathar's potential. He acquiesced slowly. "Very well, human. Proceed, but understand you do so at your own risk." David grinned and advanced. The other council members leaned forward, keen to observe the outcome, some readying themselves to step in, anticipating violence. Yet David appeared unaware of the palpable tension, moving with an assurance that contradicted the inherent danger. As he arrived beside Zephyr, the creature's growl intensified. David halted, his hand still extended. He spoke quietly, his words unheard by anyone except the Cathar. Zephyr's eyes narrowed, and momentarily it appeared the dragon might attack. But then, inexplicably, the rumble subsided. Zephyr's form eased, and the creature inclined its head. David's hand contacted scales, and he started to gently caress the Cathar's head. A unified gasp resonated through the chamber. Zaru's scales gleamed with bewilderment and a hint of wonder. "Remarkable," Zaru murmured. "How is this feasible?" David gazed up, continuing to stroke Zephyr. "I believe it relates to trust," he answered, "and perhaps an element of comprehension. We humans may be recent arrivals on the galactic stage, but we possess our distinct capabilities." Zaru advanced, examining the interaction closely. "You have accomplished what no one else has ventured, human. You have gained the regard of a Cathar. This is unheard of." David laughed lightly. "Well, I'm simply pleased Zephyr approves of me. I suppose we are companions now, correct, friend?" Zephyr emitted a low, resonant sound that strongly resembled a purr. The chamber filled with amazed quiet as the significance of the event began registering. The Galactic Council, an assembly representing the universe's most dominant entities, had been disturbed to its fundamental level. The consequences of this occurrence were substantial. If a human could establish a connection with a Cathar, what other feats were they capable of achieving? As the council members started to whisper among themselves, Zaru motioned for quiet. "This day initiates a fresh phase in our comprehension of humanity," he proclaimed. Let it be recorded that Earth shelters inhabitants of exceptional bravery and compassion. We have significant knowledge to gain from them, David acknowledged gratefully, but his concentration stayed on Zephyr. He had arrived at the Council with the objective of cultivating improved ties between humans and the galaxy's other species. This unforeseen connection with Zephyr surpassed his greatest aspirations. As the meeting proceeded, the dialogue moved towards the potential for partnership and mutual regard. David's deeds had unlocked an opportunity many had assumed was permanently closed. The Galactic Council, formerly split by apprehension and suspicion, now possessed a cause for unity. And positioned centrally was a human, serenely stroking a dragon-like being, demonstrating that occasionally the most exceptional bonds are established through straightforward gestures of goodwill. The resonance of the unprecedented event lingered, infusing the Galactic Council's chamber with newfound vitality. David persisted in stroking Zephyr, who had now settled contentedly beside him, appearing relaxed. The council members exchanged looks, their prior doubts supplanted by a blend of intrigue and esteem. Counselor Zaru eventually broke the quiet. "Human David, your conduct has certainly paved a new way for us. Still, a single instance of connection does not entirely eliminate the divide between our peoples. We must grasp the wider consequences of this relationship." David nodded, rising slowly to speak to the assembly. "I concur, Counselor Zaru. This involves more than just myself and Zephyr. It concerns the possibility for humans and other species to discover shared foundations. If we cultivate trust and respect, we can collaborate to realize significant accomplishments." A tall insectoid figure with shimmering wings, Counselor Karaz, clicked his mandibles reflectively. "Human David, your proposition is fascinating, yet deeds carry more weight than statements. We suggest a sequence of trials to evaluate this connection and its ramifications. Would you and your Cathar associate consent to take part?" David looked at Zephyr, who returned his gaze with an understanding expression. "We are prepared," he affirmed with a resolute smile. The subsequent days unfolded in a flurry of action. David and Zephyr underwent a battery of assessments formulated to gauge their connection and the prospects for interspecies cooperation. The initial trial occurred within a regulated setting, a verdant forest simulation inside the Council's vast complex. David and Zephyr were assigned the task of navigating numerous obstacles demanding teamwork and reliance. Moving through the thick vegetation, they faced diverse challenges: concealed snares, abrupt precipices, and simulated hunters. Each time, David depended on his intuition and Zephyr's sharp senses for guidance. At one juncture, they encountered a broad chasm spanned only by a slender, precarious bridge. David paused, evaluating the predicament. "Zephyr, caution is needed. Can you transport us across?" Zephyr tested his wings, generating a minor air current. The bridge swayed precariously. David inhaled deeply, mounting Zephyr's back. With a forceful jump, Zephyr glided over the abyss, landing smoothly on the opposite side. David emitted a relieved chuckle, patting Zephyr's neck. "Excellent work, companion." The council members watched from afar, their expressions reflecting a mix of captivation and respect. Zaru, who had closely observed their advancement, nodded approvingly. "They collaborate seamlessly. This connection is more potent than we foresaw." The second trial tested their communication skills. David and Zephyr were situated in an immense reverberating chamber featuring shifting partitions and obscured corridors. Their aim was to locate an exit, but the difficulty resided in the path being revealed solely through patterns of sound and light. David knelt beside Zephyr, gazing into the creature's eyes. "All right, Zephyr, we must listen and observe attentively. Let's discover the exit route together." As they navigated the chamber, David produced a sequence of whistled tones, observing the walls for responsive light flashes. Zephyr, possessing acute hearing, detected faint variations in the echoes, directing David with soft prods. It formed a subtle interplay of sound and sight, but gradually they started charting the labyrinth. At one moment, David encountered a dead end. Frustrated, he rested against the wall. "This isn't effective. We require a different strategy." Zephyr nudged him insistently, then emitted a series of growls and clicks. David listened intently, realizing the kathar imitated the wall sounds. You are correct, Zephyr. We must communicate using their language. Collaboratively, they started generating a symphony of sounds, mirroring the surrounding patterns. Progressively, the walls shifted, uncovering the exit. David and Zephyr stepped out of the chamber, weary yet victorious. The council members observing from above broke into applause. Counselor Kuraz, who had been notably doubtful, nodded in agreement. Their capacity to adjust and converse is extraordinary. This human has demonstrated that such a connection is not merely feasible but beneficial. The third trial proved the most formidable, a survival assessment in the severe conditions of the desert planet Acor. David and Zephyr were deposited into the center of a vast desert expanse with scarce provisions and no evident path. Their goal was straightforward: endure and reach the designated pickup location. The intense sun bore down as they journeyed across the sand. David shielded his vision, surveying the landscape. We require water and protection, Zephyr. Let's continue onward. Hours stretched into days as they navigated the dangerous terrain. David's ingenuity and Zephyr's hunting abilities sustained them. They located water in concealed oases and hunted small fauna for food. At night, they alternated guard duty, ensuring their security. One evening, while resting beneath a stone outcrop, David looked at Zephyr appreciatively. I could not have managed this without your help, Zephyr. You are more than an associate, you are a partner. Zephyr rumbled softly in reply, curling close to David. Their connection had deepened with every trial, illustrating the potential for cooperation between humans and other species. As days elapsed, they ultimately arrived at the extraction point, where a council vessel awaited. The council members, having monitored their progress, greeted them with a combination of wonder and esteem. Counselor Zaru stepped forward, his scales gleaming in endorsement. Human David and Zephyr, you have surmounted every trial with outstanding proficiency and cohesion. Your bond serves as a symbol of optimism for the Galactic Council. David, exhausted but proud, nodded. Thank you, Counselor Zaru. This represents merely the start. United, we can accomplish considerably more. The council chamber buzzed with renewed vigor as talks shifted towards the future. David and Zephyr's triumph had initiated a fresh era of collaboration and comprehension. The prospects were boundless, and the expedition had just commenced. As the trials concluded, David and Zephyr had not only secured the Galactic Council's respect, but had also ignited a fresh conversation regarding interspecies cooperation. The bond they demonstrated was lauded as a significant advancement, proof of what could be realized through mutual esteem and comprehension. The council chamber pulsed with a revitalized sense of direction. Counselor Zaru addressed the assembly, his voice carrying authority. We have observed the remarkable connection between human David and Zephyr. This transcends mere association. It forms a conduit between our species. The council must now determine how to proceed with this newfound insight. David, standing alongside Zephyr, experienced a swell of optimism. I suggest we initiate a program to cultivate analogous bonds throughout the galaxy. By matching representatives from various species with creatures such as the kathar, we can establish a groundwork of trust and partnership. Counselor Kuraz clicked his mandibles reflectively. Such an initiative could indeed transform our interactions. Nevertheless, it requires careful implementation. The kathar are not unique in their capacity to form bonds, and we must take into account the distinct characteristics of every participant. While the council deliberated, David and Zephyr were afforded a pause. They were guided to a tranquil garden within the council's complex, a sanctuary for serenity and contemplation. David sat on a stone seat, Zephyr curled beside him, enjoying the sunlight. Well, Zephyr, it appears we have initiated something substantial, David remarked, affectionately scratching Zephyr's chin. The kathar replied with a pleased rumble, closing his eyes. Their quiet interlude was broken by a gentle chime, signaling the reconvening of the council chamber. David and Zephyr returned, met by the expectant expressions of the council members. Counselor Zaru spoke initially. We have arrived at a determination. The council sanctions the establishment of the Intergalactic Bonding Initiative. This program will represent a joint endeavor to pair representatives from differing species with suitable companions. The objective is to promote mutual comprehension and esteem, akin to the connection between human David and Zephyr. The declaration received applause and nods of concurrence. David felt a surge of pride. Thank you, counselors. I am privileged to contribute to this initiative. I am confident it will improve the galaxy. Counselor Kuraz came forward. Human David, we wish for you to spearhead this initiative. Your exceptional bond with Zephyr renders you the perfect candidate to mentor others in developing comparable connections. David's eyes widened with astonishment. I would be honored to direct this initiative. United, we can forge a more integrated galaxy. With the decision finalized, preparations for the intergalactic bonding initiative commenced promptly. David and Zephyr took the lead, journeying to diverse planets to recount their experience and enlist participants. The reaction was exceedingly favorable, with envoys from numerous species keen to participate in this innovative program. One of their initial destinations was the planet Thos, inhabited by a race of sentient, arboreal beings called the Idris. The Idris had remained isolated for a long time, their suspicion of other species profoundly ingrained in their traditions. David recognized this mission would be demanding, yet vital. Upon arriving on Thos, they were met by the Idris leader, Elder Thalor. His bark-like exterior and unhurried, measured movements lent him an aura of wisdom and antiquity. Welcome, human David and Zephyr. We are aware of your bond and are interested in discovering more. David bowed courteously. Thank you, Elder Thalor. We hold that by establishing connections with other species, we can foster a more interconnected and understanding galaxy. We aspire to share this experience with your community. Elder Thalor nodded deliberately. We proceed with caution but are prepared to listen. Demonstrate this connection you refer to. David and Zephyr exhibited their bond through a sequence of collaborative activities, displaying their capacity for communication and seamless teamwork. The Idris observed closely, their initial doubt gradually yielding to curiosity and respect. A young Idris named Arendor stepped forward. I desire to take part in this initiative. If the connection between human David and Zephyr is achievable, perhaps there is potential for us to engage with others as well. David smiled warmly. Arendor, we would be privileged to have you participate. Together, we can clear the path towards a more unified galaxy. With every new planet visited, the intergalactic bonding initiative gained momentum. Participants from varied species forged connections with creatures specific to their homeworlds, nurturing a climate of cooperation and mutual esteem. The galaxy started to change, one bond at a time. Years went by and the initiative's influence became profound. Conflicts lessened and alliances grew stronger. The Galactic Council, previously a site of disagreement and fragmentation, transformed into a symbol of unity and partnership. David and Zephyr persisted in leading the initiative, their bond serving as a lasting emblem of what could be attained through trust and comprehension. They had converted an unlikely friendship into a movement that reshaped the galaxy. One day, standing on the steps of the Galactic Council's headquarters, David surveyed the vibrant activity surrounding them. Representatives from countless species intermingled, exchanging narratives and experiences. The galaxy was altered, improved, due to the connection between a human and a kathar. David turned to Zephyr, who gazed back with eyes full of wisdom and fondness. We accomplished it, Zephyr. We truly succeeded. Zephyr rumbled softly in concurrence, and they stood together observing as the galaxy they had assisted in uniting continued its growth and prosperity.